Good morning, everyone. I am Loise Jordan, together with my group mates Kriste Jo Delara, Julliana Pera, Oryza Repato, Jobel Postrado, and Alicia Pajo. We will be discussing to you the science of impending volcano. Volcanoes can be fascinating because of their natural formation, but they can also be very dangerous. Volcanoes are natural systems and they always have some elements of unpredictability. This is a video of a volcano erupting. Volcanoes erupt when molten rock called magma rises to the surface. Most volcanoes provide various types of warnings before eruptions begin. Some volcanoes, especially those that have not erupted for a long time, hundreds of years, might display obvious signs, months to weeks before a major eruption. Example is Pinatubo in 1991. Fumarolic and steam are some of example of warnings that Pinatubo displayed before erupting. Some volcanoes might explode without warning if the type of eruption is what is known as phreatic, also known as steam blast eruptions. These events could occur with little or no warning as superheated flashes to steam similar to what happened at Mayon volcano in Albay, Philippines, and on Take volcano in Honshu, Japan. In Mayon volcano, uh, bigla na lang siyang nag-erupt na may kasamang magma and wala siyang pinakitang iba't ibang signs tulad nung sa Mount Pinatubo.
The following are some of the observable signs volcanologists have identified when a volcano is about to erupt. First on this is steam blast eruptions. This could occur with little or no warning as superheated water changes suddenly to steam. So mostly po, when a volcano is about to erupt, it emits steam due to the water beneath the ground that is heated by magma, lava, volcanic rocks, or other volcanic deposits. Next. Next is magmatic eruption. Involve rise of magma towards the surface. Such an upward movement of magma normally will cause earthquakes, may deform the ground surface, and may cause unusual heat flow or changes in the temperature and chemistry of the groundwater and spring waters, like presence of magmatic carbon dioxide or helium. So after we observe the steam blast eruption po, eventually there would be magmatic eruption. This is because the transfer of heat causes the rocks to melt deep within the Earth's surface. And since the melted rocks are lighter than solid rocks, the magma rises and pushes through volcanic vents. Next book.
Observable signs. So before an eruption begins, signs of it will be naked to our eyes. In here, I will be explaining two signs that we should be aware of. Firstly, the increase in intensity. So before eruptions commence, the frequency and intensity of perceived earthquakes commonly rise. This is the first sign that we should look out for, especially if we live nearby a volcano, so we could be prepared for an eruption. The second, however, is eruptions can also be preceded by steaming or fumarolic activity. It is the fumaroles as well as new or enlarged hot ground area. So the fumarolic activities is wherein the volcano emits volcanic gases and vapors. Moving on, Moving on, in measurement of changes in heat flow, other methods include the frequent infrared scans or direct measurements of hot springs or fumarole temperatures to track variations in heat flow at a volcano. Changes in this composition or relative abundance of fumarole gases can potentially signal the start of an eruption and can be detected through frequent or continuous gas analysis.
It is important to be able to observe warning signs of volcanic unrest so that people can evacuate in time to minimize injuries and death. It is therefore important to be able to monitor a volcano's activity, and this is normally done with the aid of different tools or instruments to monitor the different parameters. In the Philippines, we have an organization of volcanologists that monitors volcanic activities, which is called PVOLCS. And they have a very important role because they are the ones who give warning to the citizens in case they need to evacuate just to be safe and avoid injuries in times of volcanic eruptions. Next. Most changes are not obvious or hard to see, and the most effective means of monitoring are instrumental and include a variety of geophysical, geodetic, geochemical techniques. Seismometers are used to detect and locate earthquakes associated with the rise of magma. Swelling of the ground surface can be detected by using precision instruments and techniques that measure minute changes in slope, distance, or elevation at the ground surface. So FEVOLCS uses seismometers to detect the volcanic activities by the means of earthquakes. Since some earthquakes that happen underneath the surface are not felt by humans, seismometers help in locating where these unfelt earthquakes happen and monitor if ever these activities will get intense or not.
There are different instruments and equipments used in different parameters. Sa ground deformation, we can use EDM or electronic distance meter para makita natin yung changes ng ground accurately. Using this instrument, ma-observe natin kung may pagbabago ba sa slope ng volcano or nagkakaroon ba ng swelling. Another device we can use to detect ground deformation is using data of repeated measurement from the GPS installed around the volcano. Lastly, using of remote sensing image, makikita natin ang before and after features ng ground. In terms of geochemistry naman, we can use direct measurement of temperature and chemistry groundwater, spring water using thermometer, thermocouple, and pH meter. We can also use, in terms of geochemistry, we can observe using gas being emitted by volcanic can be measured directly by gas monitoring equipment. We can collect gas and water samples from the vents and fumaroles and analyze in the laboratory. Remote monitoring gas monitoring equipment, cosspec correlation spectrometer for fly spec, scan DOAS for SO2 and CO2, fluxmeter for CO2. Next po. The assessment of volcano status, whether it is quiet or in normal state, in state of unrest, expected to erupting, is based on the different parameters that can be observed. Volcanologists often use combination of as many data available from different parameters used for evaluation. For example, the number of earthquakes as recorded by the seismograph may increase from background levels from 0 to 5 per week to 100 a day. This is further confirmed and supported by increasing number of earthquakes felt by the local people. In addition, other parameters such as gas measurements and water acidity may also show signs of increasing volcanic activity.
detection and interpretation of precursory events. The overall success of a monitoring system depends on the detection and interpretation of precursory events, warning signs that appear before volcanic eruption, in times to warn and evacuate people from threatened areas and to start other measures to mitigate or make the effects of the eruption less severe. Monitoring systems might be able to predict whether or not a particular volcano will most likely to erupt. However, monitoring systems cannot predict when it will start to erupt, what kind and how damaging the eruption will be, and which areas would be affected. Sabi nga dito, we cannot predict the future. We can predict if a volcano will erupt or not, but we can predict how much damage can it cause. And kaya nga, kung i-compare natin ang precursory events sa nangyayari sa ating buhay, it will be symptoms. Kumbaga, di ba bago pumutok ang bulkan, magpapakita siya ng precursory events or kung sa tao, bago ka magkasakit, makakakita ka ng sintomas. So next slide please. So these are the precursory events na pwedeng maramdaman ng tao. So we have five different senses, four of them which we can use to see if magkakaroon ba ng volcanic eruption in your community or malapit lang sa inyo yung vulkan, pwede ba siyang umirap. So we have visual observations, auditory observations, which is the hearing, olfactory, which is the smell, and feel, which means yung pakiramdam. So visual observations involve intensified steaming activity, which is mas lumalala na yung pagbuga ng steam ng vulkan. What used to be white steam slowly or drastically changed to gray to dark, which means meron ng mga rock particles na nahalo dun sa mga steam na binubuga ng vulkan. Drying up vegetation, meaning meron ng magma sa ilalim ng vulkan, which means mainit na yung lupa na nagkakaroon sa mga tubig na nasa lupa, di ba pag ang tubig is naiinitan, nagkakaroon ng evaporation. Kaya nagkakaroon ng drying up of vegetation. Crater glows at the summit area, which means meron ng may presence of magma na below the mountain, below the volcano. Increasing frequency of rolling rocks from the summit. Kaya nga tinatawag na Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, ang volcanoes and earthquakes ay lagi interconnected with each other. Kaya bago umirap ang bulkan, magkakaroon pa rin ng mga may hinang volcanic earthquakes na yung volcanic earthquakes na yon is yun yung nagkakos ng increasing frequency of rolling rocks from the summit. Summit area appears to glow or becomes incandescent at night, which means merong ang presence of magma sa ilalim. So auditory observations, we have hearing, rumbling sound. Maririnig mo naman yun, di ba? Kapag ikaw ay nagugutom, may maririnig kang tunog sa galing sa tiyan mo. Ganun rin kapag sa bulkan. Unti-unti ka na makakarinig ng mga tunog na hindi mo naman naririnig. Pero itong tunog na pala ito ay pwede maging resulta ng pagsabog ng bulkan. So olfactory naman, smell of sulfur, which means yung parang bulok na itlog, ganun yung amoy niya. Kasi ang nasa ilalim ng lupa, mostly sa mga vulcans, is meron silang tinatawag na sulfur. Sulfur is napakabaho. So kapag naamoy mo na yan, most likely mayroong nangyayari sa ilalim ng bulkan. Sa feel, sa tactile, we have ground movement or volcanic earthquake, like I said earlier, increasingly become felt. So yun lang, sana may natutunan kayo and that's all. Thank you.